Okay, here we go with part two. I don't know if there'll be a part four or not. We'll see how this one goes. The music in the background is an album, the music of Richard Rodgers, Andre Kostelanetz and his orchestra. This is a very early Columbia LP release. I also have this on a 12-inch 78 set. The fidelity was excellent on these. I was looking for a date on it, and unfortunately they didn't date this particular album. Next is another Dynagroove. This one's the Boston Pops Million Seller and Other Latin Hits in Dynagroove. This one dates from 1963, and again is a very early Dynagroove stereo recording. Next, my all-time favorite album, Breakfast at Tiffany's. I have this on CD, and the sound on the CD wasn't as well done as the LP, and unfortunately years ago I gave away my LP copy, and I was lucky to find another copy of this record. Next is the Stereo Goes Charleston. It says on the back, by the notorious Ira Iron Strings, how I made my first internal combustion Charleston in stereo, and then it gives the liner notes, which are kind of funny to read. I have other albums by him also, and this one dates from they didn't give the recorded in North Crumble, Macon County, Georgia, February 31st, 1922, under Harvest Moon. That's kind of a spoof. Warner Brothers didn't bother putting the date on this. Next is another Warner Brothers stereo recording. This one dates from 1958, very early stereo. Continental Visa for Those Who Have Been Abroad, orchestra conducted by Raoul Maynard. Includes such songs as The Poor People of Paris, La Vie en Rose, Comme Si, Comme Ça, April in Portugal, etc. Next is another Dynagroove. This happens to be by Marty Gold. This happened to be a orchestra and conductor that my dad really liked. So any albums that I find by him, I like to collect, because my dad's no longer living, and I treasure his record collection and the records that he listened to very much. Next is an album I had as a teenager, and I have the mono copy, but never could find the stereo one. So a TV Sing-Along with Mitch. This album had a lot of play when I was about 12, 13 years old, and introduced me to such songs as California, Avalon, Would You Like to Take a Walk? Again, 1920s, 30s recordings that were starting to be rediscovered in the late 50s, early 60s. Next is another Warner Brothers stereo record. This one happens to be from 1959. Escape to the Mediterranean by John Scott Trotter and his orchestra. Another record I had as a teenager, and somehow over the years I'd get tired of records and I'd give them away to friends and everything. And this particular one is Tommy Dorsey. It's recordings that were never released commercially from the 1930s, and unfortunately Design Records had a history of putting these as treating these as fake stereo. I'm not a fan of fake stereo, but for something that's rare like this, I'll put up with it. Next is Perry Como Sings Latin. Another Dynagroove recording. This one dates from 1966. Another Italian record that I like, Italian singer. Here's Lou Monte with Hugo Winterholder and his orchestra on RCA Camden. 1958 includes such songs as Jealous of You, Tango della Gelosia, I've Got a Crush on You, Angelina, the Waitress at the Pizzeria, Rosina, also known as the Menu Song. Next is a little later record by Lou Monte, Peppino the Italian Mouse. As a teenager, I had the title song on a 45, and I'm lucky to find the record in mono that has not been, as I call it, molested, scratched, or worn out. They also had a stereo version at the sale, but it was totally trashed, so I was lucky to get a mint mono copy. Next, since I collect Magnavox radio phonographs, I was happy to come across this. It's a record that they would give away with the stereos when you purchased them. This one dates from 1968. On the back they have pictures of the various sets that they have. This is about 2 years later than my Magnavox Astrosonic, but I'm glad to find a record like this. And then a Hugo Winterhalter album from 1959. Hugo Winterhalter Goes Latin. Has such songs as Delicato, Valencia, The Peanut Vendor, Vayo con Dios, Granada, etc. Yes, I have to admit I do like Guy Lombardo, and I found this album. It dates from about 1958. It's a reissue of most of his Victor recordings, which predate the ones he did for Decca in the late 1930s all the way through the 1950s. Next is a Billie Holiday album, the Billie Holiday Songbook. This is one of her Verve recordings. Includes My Man, Don't Explain, Lover Man, God Bless the Child, Strange Fruit, Traveling Light, etc. And the last one, Benny Goodman, called BG and His Chicks Volume 13. This is produced by RCA in France. They do an excellent job of transferring the recordings, and anytime I can find any of these with Benny Goodman on them, I'll snap them up, because I have the American issues on RCA that were done in the early 1980s, and they didn't do a very good job of transferring them all. Mostly mid-range, very little highs or low notes on the American issue. Anyway, thanks for putting up with this collection. This probably won't happen again until next year. Good luck at finding records, and I hope some PBS stations and NPR stations have record sales in your area.